Hello again. Great to be back with you after a week off, at least from the radio show. Not a week off in total for Carolina football, of course. They were still working hard, and we're going to talk about that and a lot more here on the Mack Brown Show. My name is Jones Angel. He on the other side of the screen there is the Hall of Fame head coach of the Tar Heels, Mack Brown, and looking forward to being with you here for the next hour or so. We have a lot of good stuff to talk about. We will talk about what the Tar Heels did this past week to use that bye week effectively here heading into the final handful of games of the regular season. We'll look ahead. Big Friday matchup. Don't forget, it's a Friday game coming up this weekend against Notre Dame in Kenan Stadium. Two ranked teams, Carolina at number 25, Notre Dame up at number 2. And also, we'll look back at that exciting win over Wake Forest. Feels like a long time ago, but such a great win for Carolina in Kenan Stadium. But, Coach, first of all, great to be back with you. I know you have a busy week and a lot going on, but, gosh, it felt like a good time for your team to have this bye week, to rest up a little bit, recover after a long stretch of games, and then get ready for this final stretch. How did you and the team handle these last handful of days leading up to this week?
Jones, it was a great and needed week off.
Yeah.
And when we say week off, it's really not a week off. As you said earlier, they're in finals. So many of the guys have finals today. That's why we're taking today off too. But these guys started practice August the 6th.
Wow.
And this would have been the last game against NC State with our regular season schedule on Friday. And now we still have 2 games left and a bowl game. So we felt like it was important to let them study for their finals, number one, and to get rested. So we practiced light on Monday, hard on Tuesday, hard on Thursday, and then let the guys have Friday and Saturday off. We came back and practiced Sunday afternoon, and then today we've got the day off, which means they get to study because all of them had a final today, and
Wow.
I think this may be the last final. But people forget that these guys have a life outside of football as well.
Coach, how do you try and during finals week, how do you try and give these guys support, make sure that they have what they need to be as successful as they can be in the classroom?
We're lucky that they have tremendous support from assistant academic counselors. We have one for each position, and they talk to the position coach every week about did they have a paper, did they have a final, did they miss a class, did they miss a tutoring session, were they there? And then we can help get that message to the parents as well. And then if somebody needs to miss practice, last week we just said you're studying, your finals are more important than practice, so that's a priority for you, so just miss the practice and move on.
Coach, this is a pretty obvious statement, but Carolina's last action was that dramatic come-from-behind victory against Wake Forest, and again, very obvious, but much nicer to go into this bye week, I'm guessing, with that result compared to a negative result in that game against the Demon Deacons.
Well, it was an important win for so many reasons. Offensively, we've been good all year. Defensively, we've been up and down. I think we're 6th in the league when you start looking at total defense, and maybe 5, 6, 7 against the run. But you got to get stops. And I was proud of the offense throughout the game, but so proud of the defense that they got 5 straight stops, one on a 4th down late in the ball game there that led to the win. So defensively, we've just got to keep fighting and clawing till we can get better. We will have some guys in better shape this weekend. That may get to play, so we're watching them this week. We can get some guys back, but one thing, Miles Murphy will get his cast off, so he'll actually have a hand he can play with instead of a club. So you're telling Miles, wrap up. It's, well, Coach, I can't. I got a club on my hand. So, but the guys had a great attitude last week in practice and yesterday. They're really excited about this game. It was important also to win all the in-state games, our rivals. At that point, we've got Western Carolina next week. But the 3 games with State, Wake, and Duke are important, and they're important for recruiting. They're important for you. Unless you can dominate your local teams, then you're not going to be a national team. And now this week, we've got an ABC game with the number 2 team in the country. And the only thing I regret about this weekend, Jones, is our fans can't be there. Can you imagine what kind of crowd we would have in Kenan Stadium this weekend. We would have packed it against Syracuse. We would have had an outstanding crowd for Virginia Tech, for NC State, and for Wake Forest. All great games. And then this one might have been the best crowd in the history of our school. So I hate that for our fans, that they're not going to be able to be there.
Yep, those 3,500 plus that were there against Wake Forest were making some noise. Best
they were loud.
They could. That's right. Would have been nicer to have 50,000 plus though in Kenan Stadium. We'll talk about a little more about that game coming up in just a second. Coach, I wanted to ask you about a couple pieces of news, both for your team and conference-wide here over the last few days. You had your final two games flipped. The Miami and the Western Carolina games flipped due to some problems with the Miami program due to COVID, the Hurricanes having to shut down for a few weeks, so the ACC had to adjust several games, including a couple of the Tar Heels. How did that all happen from your perspective, and did you have any strong opinion about the outcome with those two games flipping in the final 2 weeks?
Yeah, Jones, Bubba Cunningham, our athletics director, just called me and said, listen, they're having some issues at Miami. We're going to have to adjust and move games around, and are you okay with this? And I was. I felt like it probably spreading those games out was a little bit better because you get banged up and tired at the end of the year. And it's senior day for our seniors for the Western Carolina game, so that'll be a cool day for them. We're still waiting to see what time those games against the game against Miami will be for sure. So I think it's a year where you saw Cal was supposed to play Arizona State, and USC was supposed to play Utah, and that didn't work out. Or UCLA was supposed to play. So they just called each other and said, 48 hours, let's go play. So we actually have 2 or 3 weeks to prepare for ours, Jones, so it's a lot better.
That's right. Not one of those where you just have one day to change the airplane flight or something like that.
Yeah, it's like neighborhood games. Hey, can y'all come over tomorrow? We'll meet you in Greensboro, and we'll play there. It's a little crazy.
Coach, there have been, unfortunately, we've seen an elevation in the amount of games that have been postponed and canceled here over the last few weeks. How have you communicated that information with your team just to make sure that they understand what's happening and what could happen here in Chapel Hill as well?
Jones, we get our temperature checked every morning. I'm the healthiest I have ever been because I know. and we get tested 3 days a week. And we've just told the players that it's out there. The virus is out there. It's real. It's an issue. It's spreading like wildfire. So with an open weekend, if you are going home, be really careful. And that's all we can do. We said if you want to play, try to stay as far away from that stuff as you can. And every time those tests come back, I cringe.
Sure. Because
I'm not one of those guys that thinks, we'll never get it. We had our little spike this summer, but we're good, man. Every time I do, and even with the Clemson, Florida State postponement or cancellation, whatever happened this weekend, I've also had the fear that you get to a game and have it canceled that day, and that's the first one that's been canceled on the day of the game all year. So hopefully we will not see that again.
Carolina scheduled against Notre Dame coming up on Friday. That's the next action for the Heels. We're going to look ahead to that matchup later in the show, but after this break, we're going to look back a week and revisit that really exciting win over Wake Forest. Also coming up later in the show, failed to tell you at the beginning, we're going to speak with Daryl Moody, who used to a longtime assistant coach with Coach Brown during his first tenure, now on the staff as well in a different role, and we'll talk to Coach Brown about that, and you'll hear from Coach Moody coming up in a little bit too. So we have a lot to do. Stay put. It's the Mack Brown Show from Learfield, IMG College. Thanks again for being here. It's the Mack Brown Show. My name is Jones Angel, along with the head coach of the Tar Heels, Mack Brown. Carolina, we mentioned this kind of in passing earlier. Tar Heels back in the rankings this week, checking in at number 25 in the AP poll. That sets up a big ranked matchup. It was going to be a big game regardless, but a big ranked matchup now with Notre Dame on Friday. The Irish coming in at number 2. We'll talk about that game in just a little bit. But let's get to our Champion Watch, brought to you by UNC Health, the team at UNC Health dedicated to caring for champions of all kinds. That includes you and your family. See their lineup at unchealthcare.com. wake.org/sports. And gracious, this past game against Wake Forest a couple Saturdays ago, there were plenty of statistical champions in this one. Sam Howell, school record 550 yards passing, school record 6 touchdowns. The 550 yards, the third most ever in an ACC game. He was named ACC Quarterback of the Week. Daz Newsome, season high 10 catches, career high 189 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was the ACC Wide Receiver of the Week. And that's De'Ami Brown, just had 8 catches, 163 yards, and 2 scores, and couldn't even get honored by the conference last week, Coach, because Daz put up such great numbers as well. And 2 others, Javonte Williams, 101 yards rushing and a touchdown. That rushing touchdown now has him as the 5th highest single-season total in Carolina history with 15. His 18 total touchdowns has him tied for 3rd in a single-season total in Tar Heel history. And finally, Michael Carter, he had more than 120 yards from scrimmage and a touchdown. He was named the ACC co-running back of the week. Coach, just a wild game, huge offensive numbers for your team. You mentioned it earlier, your defense stepping up in a big way in the second half. And what turned out to be a really fun afternoon in Kenan Stadium for the Tar Heels.
Yes, I've been so pleased with our offense all year. We challenged them to do better in the red zone, better on short yardage and goal line, and we're doing all those things. We didn't block the first 4th and 2 well at the 40 going in, which hurt us. But basically, we were scoring every time we got the opportunity. And I've been really pleased that our offense knows they're more experienced. They know that they're more talented right now than our defense. And there hasn't been any frustration back and forth or anger that you all aren't doing your job or all of that. And then I was so proud of Coach Bateman and the defensive staff for hanging in there the second half and really getting after it and getting the 5 straight stops and the 4th down stop and giving the offense a chance to win the game and put it away. So, but these offensive numbers, Sam's playing as well as anybody in the country, and you wouldn't even know it. Same Sam, he's level-headed. Jeremy Sharp asked him the other day right before the press conference, "Are you okay? You need anything?" He said, "How's my hair? Is it good?" It wasn't out of place much. So, but with Sam playing like that, it gives us a chance to win every week.
Now, 550 yards, 6 touchdowns, hair stayed put. That's a good afternoon.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Coach, you mentioned the defense. So what changed for the defense in that stretch? Wake had been moving the ball pretty effectively for 2.5 quarters or so, and then, as you said, 5 straight stops. 3 of them were 3-and-outs. One was a 5-play drive, that was a punt, and then one was a 4-play drive with a turnover on down. So it was pretty dominant defense there for a stretch from your team. What changed with that group?
Jones, one thing I think, if you look at last year's game with Wake, we didn't play well on defense the first half. We played really well the second half. I do think with their offense being so unique, it takes time to get used to that pace. It's really a slower pace. It's funny that they go up-tempo with their offense, but they slow down the running game and their RPOs so much that you've got to be so disciplined. And our kids the first half were excited, but they were getting out of their gap. And then somebody would bounce out and make a big play. And to credit Sam Hartman, he was hot. Yep. He did everything he needed to do. He didn't throw many bad passes. And we weren't able to get pressure on him the first half. When we started stopping the run better the second half, then you get more pressure. This is a game about stopping the run.
Coach, you mentioned this a little bit in the first segment, but this just felt like an important win, not just for this year's team, but just for the growth of this program, to sweep the in-state ACC teams, to finish a big comeback. You guys have had some comebacks that came up just short, but to finish a big comeback and win the game just felt like a really important win for your team and your program in total.
Jones, I thought it was a huge step forward because Florida State, we had a chance to win. I thought we should have won, and we didn't. We didn't make the plays down the stretch, and they were there to be made. And then Virginia, again, we came back, but we had to make a play or two. We didn't make them. So in this game, unlike those, against a really good Wake Forest team that had won 4 games in a row and doesn't like us very much, the guys stepped up and did what they needed to do to win. So now that they understand they can, we've lost so many close games in our year and 2/3 here. Now hopefully they'll start being able to close out games much better with more confidence.
59-50 31-53 was the final score a couple of weeks ago in Kenan Stadium. The Tar Heels getting that big win and advancing to 6-2 on the season. Still a long way to go. 3 more games in the regular season still left for the Tar Heels. That includes Notre Dame on Friday. We'll preview that matchup and more coming up, but when we return, we're going to start getting to some of your questions for the head coach of the Tar Heels. That's on the Mack Brown Show from Learfield, IMG College. Halfway through the Mack Brown Show. Really appreciate you joining us today, no matter how you're listening or watching us this afternoon, this evening, whenever you are with us at your leisure. Also, quick reminder, so we have, obviously, this show today. We have one more show next week for Coach, and that is our final scheduled Mack Brown Show. If the Tar Heels, which we think they will, participate in a bowl game, maybe even sneak into that ACC championship, then we might be able to readjust and talk to Coach Brown a few more times later in the year. But as of right now, just have one more scheduled. We'll join Coach again next week. We do have the Roy Williams Show starting soon as well. That will start in early December with the head coach of Carolina basketball. All right, let's get to some questions for Coach. And, Coach, this is a bunch of questions on one topic, but I thought it was a pretty interesting one from Will Lingo. And Will sent this in and said there was some talk on the television broadcast at the end of the Wake Forest game that Wake actually allowed Javonte Williams to score the touchdown that put Carolina up 2 scores late because, in theory, that gave Wake a better chance with more time on the clock to try and score, get the onside kick, score again. Will asked, A, do you think that Wake allowed Javonte Williams to score? And B, have you ever been in a similar situation where you actually said, hey, let's let them score because that'll give us our best chance when you consider the time remaining on the clock?
Well, it's a great question, and the word analytics is being used a lot more than at any other time in my coaching career. And it's just the odds of what you think is the best thing to do. If you saw the Cincinnati Central Florida game this weekend, Cincinnati took a knee and didn't score at the end of the game, which they could have from the one. If you saw the Penn State-Indiana game earlier in the year, the coaches from Penn State were yelling to the back to get down because they wanted to let the clock run out and instead of score and then give them a chance for a touchdown, a 2-point play, an onside kick. And those things aren't likely to happen, but they could happen. I do not think in any way that Wake Forest let us score. We thought maybe during the game they did, but going back and studying it, no, they didn't. It was a great play by Javonte. But we took a knee at the end of the game at Virginia Tech. A lot of people said, oh, Mack's being nice. No, well, I really wasn't. We probably would have taken the knee anyway. But the analytics said take the knee. I saw it earlier this year with Texas Tech against somebody, and Texas Tech's back was headed into the end zone and fell about the 4. And they let it run down, and they kicked a field goal with 3 seconds left instead of scoring and allowing someone to go down and score with very little time left. So it's something that people are utilizing much more than at any other time in the past, and I think it's a good thing. If you go back to the Buffalo Bills game with Arizona Cardinals the other night, Buffalo scores. Yep. And you think, hey, gosh, this is the thing to do, man. And in retrospect, they probably wish they had killed the clock and kicked a field goal and tried to take time off the clock, because then Arizona scores on a Hail Mary with 1 second left. So there's a lot of thinking, a lot of plotting going on right now, Will, that has not been the same in the past. But it's definitely stuff that's fun to follow. And a junkie like me and you guys, a football junkie, it makes it really fun to study.
Coach, I have to imagine it's a little against your natural thought process when you're out on the field. Of course, you want to go get in the end zone and score. That's what you're doing when you're the offense. Have to imagine that's a hard balance to find there.
Well, Jones and Will, I'm stubborn, and I know that. And for many years, when somebody said, we can't score here, we shouldn't score, I said, that's stupid. You think we're going to tell a guy to stop? Right. And we really are. So it has changed. I've grown up. I've matured. But it's definitely a different look at college football.
Coach, you mentioned this it was maybe 2-3 weeks ago with the media where you talked a lot about the analytics that you just mentioned there, and I got a chance to look. You showed me one of the game books that you guys have, your analytics book for every single week. It is amazing how much information that you have with you on the sideline, and you said that's something that has really been significantly different from your first tenure here in Chapel Hill and even your time at Texas to now here in this go-round.
Yes, Jones, it's crazy, and if you're behind, they want you to go for 2 every time early in the game, and I'm still not doing that. I think we would have gotten in trouble if we had gone for 2 and not made it against Wake Forest. We wouldn't have tied the game up when we were coming back like we were. So we still don't do everything that they tell us, but I'm telling you in the book, it tells you when to take a penalty and when not, and it gets complicated when to take a knee and not, and it's if they have 3 timeouts and there's 1:17 left, or if they have 2 timeouts, or if they have 1 timeout, or if they have no timeouts, and there's a whole lot to be digested in a simple 30, 40 seconds that you have. One of the other things that came up, we mentioned a few weeks ago, Jones, is we actually had a play where it was 3rd down and 4. So analytics said if it's 4th and 2 or less, go for it. So we had to get a play for 4th and 2 as we were getting our 3rd down play. And then it said if you don't get it within the 4th and 2, you need to kick the field goal. And then what happened is Sam got sacked. So it had to be a punt. So we went from going for 4th and 2 to kicking a field goal on 4th and 3 to punting. So trying to figure all that out in a 40-second span of time is really something that keeps that sideline interesting.
I would imagine so. I imagine the communication between coaches, such a paramount importance there during all that sequence as well. Just a little insight to all that. You think it's not quite as easy as everybody seems to think it is over there on the sideline, Coach.
Well, Jones, I'm sorry, but we also said in that time, with a 3rd down and 4, we said, okay, field goal alert. So we get all the field goal team up. And then we had to go from going for 4th down to field goal alert, cancel the field goal alert. Hey, punt, punt. You guys on punt team, get out here fast. And then you may have somebody on the field that's on the punt team. So he's coming off. You got to grab him, send him back. So it's a lot easier to have 10 or 12 on the field than people think in certain situations like that.
Coach, had a bunch of people ask, and you touched on this a little bit, but just about the schedule this week. And so with the game on Friday, you mentioned, of course, exams. There's the holiday on Thursday. Just how are you guys managing this week's schedule to try to make sure everybody's as prepared as they can be on Friday afternoon?
Yes, Jones. The thing that we felt is we practiced last Monday. Yes, we practiced Monday. We practiced Tuesday. We were off Wednesday because they had all-day finals on Wednesday of last week. Then we practiced Thursday, and then they actually had finals Friday and Saturday.
Wow.
And we felt like that they needed to get rested too. So we had 3 really good prep days for Notre Dame. Let them get fresh this weekend. And then yesterday we practiced, had a really good practice on Sunday, which will be like a Tuesday practice. It gets really confusing. So they're off today because they're all in finals again today. I think every player on the team has finals today. So we let them off today, and then we'll go back tomorrow, which is Tuesday, and that'll be our normal Wednesday for a Saturday weekend because we're playing on Friday. So the whole thing gets a little crazy. For we who love routine, not. We're not having routine anymore. But it goes back to a similar week that we had against Duke, even though it was a Saturday game.
Right.
The NCAA wouldn't allow us to practice on Tuesday because of the election. So we still had some disruption in the middle of the week of our normal schedule, and it worked out fine.
Now, Coach, is there any holiday plan? I know it's unique both in the fact that you play on Friday this week and, of course, the pandemic as well. Is the team doing anything Thanksgiving-wise? No.
We will have Thursday of Thanksgiving would be like a normal Friday, and a walkthrough and a Friday night meal before we would play on Saturday, so it'll just be on Thursday. So
gotcha.
What we've told the players is you'll be able to have your Thanksgiving on Saturday.
That's right. Yep, a little unique week in what has been a unique year for Carolina and everybody around college football. All right, we're going to take a timeout, come back. Actually, before we do that, Coach, because for those who are listening, next segment's going to be Daryl Moody, and love to get your opinion on why Coach Moody was somebody you wanted to bring back and be a part of your staff. I believe it's senior advisor to the head coach is his official title. Why was Coach Moody somebody you wanted involved with Carolina football again?
Well, Coach Moody and I worked together 13 years or something at a lot of different places, and he was one of the best running back coaches I've ever seen. All the great running backs here, he had a hand in recruiting and coaching, and Robert Gillespie's doing a great job now, but Darryl was one of those guys that could do it. And then he went to the NFL and was a pro scout for 18, 19 years. And one of the things that I thought was very important for our team and our current players, I wanted them to have a very good evaluation of themselves as it compares to the NFL. So Darryl sits down and looks at every one of them, and he'll say, Michael Carter, here's what they're going to ask you at the combine. Here's what they're going to look for in you. Here's what you're doing well. Here's where I would be concerned if I'm a scout. So you need to do this better. You need to do this better. And even with the pandemic, where it's harder for scouts to be on your campus to watch them practice, Darryl's got great relationships throughout. So as our players are starting to look at, do I want to leave early? What is my status for the NFL as a senior? Darryl can give them really accurate information, and he's been so helpful in that area.
So we're going to have that interview with Darryl Moody coming up after this break. We'll then go to another commercial break, come back, more to do with Coach Brown after that here on the Mack Brown Show from Learfield, IMG College. Just a little bit more to do here on the Mack Brown Show. Thanks so much for being with us. Quick reminder that if you know someone that selflessly works to improve the lives of others and their communities, that Carolina and LS Tractor would like to know about it. Those two have partnered up to recognize hometown heroes from throughout the state. You can go to goheels.com/hero and nominate someone you know for a chance to be recognized at an upcoming Carolina event. LS Tractor, proud partner of Carolina Athletics. Coach, have time here for just a couple of questions before we take our final break. And Dennis, who frequently sends in great questions here on the show, wanted to know that how much of, when you have some extra time to prepare for an opponent, how much do you actually focus on that opponent and how much do you actually just work on the team itself, maybe getting younger guys some reps and things like that?
Dennis, it's a great question. You try very hard not to do too much, because with extra time you can put too much in. So you want to be who you are, you want to get it better, you want to rest some of your guys that are playing a whole lot, and then you really work hard on an off week on all your younger guys. We even had a short scrimmage at the end of Thursday just to get a lot of the young guys some work. So that's fun, but that should help us here in this 3-week span at the end of the season.
Coach Dan sent this one in and was curious about Desmond Evans and how Des has played here in his freshman campaign and how you've seen him grow throughout the season.
Des is getting stronger. He's gaining weight. He got sick. It wasn't COVID, but he got sick and didn't get to play for a couple of weeks earlier in the season, which really hurt his progress because he couldn't work out and he just didn't feel good. But he gets better every week and expect him to show up here some in the last 3 weeks.
Coach, one more question about an individual player. This one came from Caroline. Wanted to know about Emory Simmons. Emory made another great catch in the game against Wake Forest a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, Emory's a total team guy. He's tough, he's fast, he can catch, he's on every special team. He never gripes. He's just a warrior. He goes to practice every day and a game every day like it's the most important day of his life, and really appreciate him. He's helping us a lot as a team.
All right, we're going to take a break, come back, and peek ahead to Notre Dame coming up in Chapel Hill. That's a 3:30 kick on Black Friday, day after Thanksgiving. We'll take a look at the Irish to wrap things up when we return to the Mack Brown Show from Learfield, IMG College. Stiff test coming on Friday as Carolina hosting Notre Dame in Kenan Stadium. It's the 21st all-time meeting between the Tar Heels and Fighting Irish. And, Coach, just one of the best teams in the nation coming to Chapel Hill and a tremendous opportunity for your team.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity for us to see where we are nationally. We're playing against one of the best teams in the country, could be the best team in the country. They're big, they're strong. Brian Kelly's a friend of mine. He and I actually coached in an all-star game in 2003 together when he was at Grand Valley State. So it's been a long journey, but he's done a tremendous job. 10 years at Notre Dame. I think this is his best team. It'll be a real challenge for us on Saturday. Great for us to be the game of the week on ABC with Herb Street and Fowler and Maria Taylor, and we'll just see. Like I told our guys, it's time for us to see where we stand on a national basis.
Coach Ian Book has had a terrific year at quarterback for the Fighting Irish, and another guy who can hurt you both with his arms and his legs. And as we've talked about a few times this year, that is such a challenge, not just for the Tar Heels, but for any team when you face a quarterback like that.
Yeah, he's 28-3. He's 11 touchdowns, 1 interception. He's run for 6 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So he's just a very good player. And as Brian has said many times, you want the ball in his hand at the end of the game. So we will see 2 of the best quarterbacks in the country on Friday.
Absolutely. And, Coach, last thing, this is a really stout defensive team. Notre Dame, one of the best, at least statistically, one of the best defenses in the nation, and really good against the run. They're holding teams to just 85 yards per game on the ground. Yeah,
our offensive line's improved a lot, but this will be our biggest test. I think they're 5th on defense in the country. They're number 1 in our league on defense, number 1 against the run in the ACC. And when we haven't run the ball very well, we obviously haven't been as good. We've had more trouble with protection, and we've gotten behind. So they like to keep the ball. They lead the league in time of possession, but they're very physical and very tough against the run. So it'll be a real challenge for our guys early in the game.
Friday, remember Friday, not Saturday this week, Friday, 3:30 kick in Kenan Stadium. Radio-wise, we'll be on the air for that one at 2:30. Looking forward to bringing you the 21st meeting between Carolina and Notre Dame. Coach, as always, great to see you. Best of luck coming up on Friday, and look forward to talking with you again soon.
Thanks, Jones.
That's the head coach of the Tar Heels, Mack Brown. It's his show, The Mack Brown Show, from Learfield, IMG College.